While wild plays and great games made the 50s unique, it was the players who really defined the era. Men like Frank Gifford. To New York fans, Gifford remains a symbol of a shining era, a time when the Giants were a diamond stick pin in the vest of professional football. Gifford joined the Giants in 1952, and in the 12 seasons that he played, the team won 5 divisional titles and 1 world championship. He was the son of an oil rigger, and his family moved frequently, sometimes 15 times in a single year, and Frank often slept on mattresses in the back of pickup trucks. In 1948, he earned a football scholarship to the University of Southern California, and while in school, he appeared briefly in 2 motion pictures whose titles sum up his image: Saturday's Hero and The All-American Boy.
In 1951, Hollywood handsome Frank Gifford was a bit player in movies. But as a tailback for the Southern Cal Trojans, he played the leading man and perfectly fit the role of All-American. The next year, this golden boy from the Golden West was gift-wrapped and presented to the New York Giants in the NFL draft. He carried with him an aura of style and glamour that no university offered in its curriculum.
When I arrived at the Giants' #1 draft pick, my wife was a centerfold of Argosy magazine at the time. I was a #1 draft pick. There was a lot of talk about my working in movies. I guess I was a good-looking guy. There wasn't any real resentment on the part of the players, I don't think initially.
This handsome hero of girls' dreams and boys' ambitions became the most versatile running back of the 1950s. He could run, throw, and catch, and the option pass became the Giants' most effective weapon, averaging a touchdown every 4 attempts. Gifford began his career as a defensive back and ended it as a receiver. And although he made every move look effortless, no Giant player worked harder than number 16.
Frank was the type that would stay out after practice, work on pass patterns, do some extra running, and I think his ambition to be as good as he could possibly be motivated him as far as getting maximum out of his abilities.
His looks and gentlemanly ways were mistaken by some as softness. But Gifford was an intense competitor who hated to lose and usually managed to find a way to win.
Frank was a thinking football player that always aware of what defenses they were in and always able to come up with something and come into the huddle and tell you something. I like that. When Sunday came, he made the big catch. He made a big play. He might not catch but 2 balls a game, but one of them was one that he shouldn't have caught, and he did catch it.
By the mid-50s, the Giants were the kings of pro football, and the prince of the city was Frank Gifford.
A handsome man. I mean, here we are, the big old guys down in the mud. You know, we always looked muddy. We always looked grimy. We always looked sweaty. And Frank always looked so good. I mean, I don't remember Frank ever having a muddy uniform. Frank was everything that you ever thought about being. I mean, he was it.
He didn't really associate with too many of the other players. Not because he didn't want to, but because everybody was sort of saying, hey, you know, this guy's really something. And look all he's got going for him. I mean, he had a radio show. Nobody had a radio show.
I'm Frank Gifford. I've been in the league for 10 years. When you're with the Giants, you learn that football is a game of percentages.
So I think most of the players were just sort of saying, boy, what a guy he is.
And then you win ball games.
I worked hard, I think probably more than anyone I know on the Giants. And there was a lot of resentment against me within our own ball club. As we started to do well and we won the championship in '56, I would get all the publicity. I think I handled it rather well. I just never could figure out some of the animosity that I got from players. Once I got over the hurt, really, of that, I just said to hell with it. I went out and I played my game. There were a lot of deliberate shots taken at me. give me a knee, an elbow, God knows, a finger in the eye. If I'm working against somebody who is emotionally involved with something else, and part of that is, well, I'm going to put that no-good yo-yo freak from California out of the game, I'm going to beat that guy 9 times out of 10.
He aspired to great deeds and possessed the confidence that he could accomplish them. For 8 seasons, he ignored the cheap talk and escaped the cheap shots. But in 1960, he was hospitalized after a clean hit by concrete Charlie Bednarik.
Bednarik's hit on Frank was the greatest tackle I've ever seen. I mean, you know, I used to stay up at night thinking about hitting a guy like that. Frank was not looking at Bednarik. He should have been looking for him because Charlie could hit, and something's got to give, and it was Frank.
As I caught the ball and turned into him, hit me in the chest, and I went over backwards. And this is from people telling me about it and looking at the films, because I don't think I remembered much of anything.
We thought he was dead. When I walked by him on the field, he was quivering, and his eyes were back in his head, and I said that, he's gone.
Like a cheap shot? Well, it really wasn't. I mean, Bednarik, had he given me a cheap shot, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. He's just a good, solid football player and a great football player.
Injured in 1961, Gifford came back to help lead the Giants to 2 Eastern Conference titles. When he retired in 1964, he owned the hearts of the fans and had won the respect of his teammates.
Do you like him or do you respect him? I think there's a very fine line between dislike and respect. I think Frank had everybody's respect, and sometimes we confuse that issue. He still has everybody's respect.
When people want their classic sports with a twist, they turn to the new season of Cheap Seats. Jason and Randy Sklar, the most trusted names in hard-hitting sports comedy. Cheap Seats, 10 p.m. weeknights with a new episode every Monday, only on ESPN Classic.
The greatest rivalry in sports returns. Red Sox, Yankees. A new season begins. Opening night, Sunday at 8 Eastern on ESPN2.
When is a diet pill worth $153 a bottle? When you're more than 20 pounds overweight and every diet plan has failed. Now there's Leptoprin.
Specifically developed for the significantly overweight, backed by a United States patent, a double-blind published clinical trial, and an ironclad 100% 30-day money-back guarantee. Leptoprin is simply the most powerful, clinically proven weight control compound available, period.
If you're one of those people who constantly worry about 5 or 6 vanity pounds, Leptoprin is not for you. Leptoprin is much too expensive and much too powerful for the casual dieter. But if you're one of the millions of Americans who are 20, 30, 50 pounds or more overweight, you need Leptoprin.
So when is a diet pill worth $153 a bottle? When it works, really works.
Isn't it time you tried Leptoprin? Call 1-800-490-6751. 1-800-490-6751.
Frank Gifford carved his clean-cut image in an era also known for its tough guys. Men who played the game because they loved combat and contact. During the 50s, every team had a notorious hitman. In San Francisco, the 49ers had a smallish linebacker named Hardy Brown, who might have been the most destructive hitter of all time. 49er players measured an opponent's toughness by how he got up, if he got up, after being hit by Hardy Brown.
30 years ago, the San Francisco 49ers fielded a team with 4 future Hall of Famers. But Hardy Brown was not one of them. Number 33 was a skinny linebacker who captained the San Francisco defense in the mid-50s and whose career is nearly forgotten today. But time cannot dull the memory of how Hardy Brown could hit.
Captain Charlie Connolly fires one to Bill's dribbling. All goes well until hard-hitting Hardy Brown hurls his hefty hulk into the ball carrier, and it's a fumble with Rex Berry recovering for the 49ers.
Brown never used his arms while tackling. Only a well-timed shoulder to separate men from the ball and their senses.
He had an educated shoulder where he'd snap it up and be able to time it so he hit a ball carrier or whatever right underneath his choppers.
I have seen him put people out cold with that shoulder, and Hardy was not a big man. He was only about 195, 200 pounds, but boy, he learned how to put that hump into you from Tulsa, and he hit.
When Bob Waterfield got through playing for the Rams, one day he was crossing some street down there in L.A., and a Volkswagen hit him. And he got up, and they said, "You all right?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm all right, but I thought Hardy Brown was in town." And that's it.
Perhaps Hardy Brown's violent nature was shaped at the Masonic Home for Orphans in Fort Worth, Texas, where he was sent at the tender age of 5 to learn about life and football.
And my father was murdered, and they sent me and my brother and my sister out there, and that's when we started fooling around football. I had an older brother, and he started teaching all the guys to play football out there using that kind of a shoulder. And all those kids that played out to home there, they had to play that way or they wouldn't make the team. One year, we got to the semifinals, and we went up to play Amarillo, Texas. And finally, they beat us 14-7. And they came in our dressing room and said, "You guys sure block funny." We said, "Why?" They showed us their lips, and they said, "All of us are split lips."
Football took Hardy Brown out of the orphanage and sent him to Tulsa University, then on to the 49ers, where he developed the skills of a solid pro linebacker. But it was Hardy's unique method of mayhem that made him a folk hero among those he played with and against.
I've seen Hardy Brown knock the helmet right off a player, hit him in the chest, chin, boom. The player's feet would continue down. You would see him running like this player, up in the air, helmet off, and just spread eagle.
Every time we'd play the Chicago Bears, Hallis would have the officials come in and inspect Hardy. Always thought he had a steel plate or something up on his shoulder pad. Hardy was a linebacker, and probably a very most punishing linebacker I think that I've ever known, who could throw a punch with exact timing and hit a guy right on the point of the nose. And that's usually where Hardy aimed for, the point of the nose.
It was kind of like a Jack Dempsey punch. It didn't need but 6 inches. That's all it needed, and you went to sleep.
You see these westerns, you see guys have niches on their belts for guys that killed. Boy, Hardy Brown had niches on his belt for all the jock straps he got. He put more people to sleep with a shoulder lick than anybody I've ever seen.
Take one step forward, keep your back straight, keep your eyes open, and shoot. Over the years, I guess I've got 75 or 80 knockouts playing professional football. No, I don't feel sorry for anybody I hit. I really don't. So they want to get me, too. The Rams had a $500 deal for my getting knocked out of the game, and I found out about it. And the guy that told me was the guy that was in the backfield with me at Tulsa, Paul Berry. And I said, "Paul, if you get to play, come in and hit me, and I'll fake and go out, and we'll split that $500, $250 apiece."
Hardy, it's been almost 30 years since you've played, and the game's changed a lot since then. What do you think of the NFL today?
I think it's a sissy game. They won't let a linebacker meet a guy coming across the line or anything. And you know what I'd do? If I was playing for some team and one of the good ends came across, well, I'd take a whack at him and knock him out so that we wouldn't have to fool with him anymore. I might cave a few teeth in.
So these are the roads.
Don't have a special.
Don't have a special.